Before we started the broadcast, we were discussing here locally the question of what should we make our authority in terms of what is popularly called Hinduism, but what is actually called the Vedika or Vedanta system. And the clue is in the name, Vedas, and some we quite rightly say what we really mean is Upanishads. The Upanishads, of course, it seems to be derived from upani, sitting near a teacher. That's the idea about it. But these are conversations that are sometimes in royal courtyards and palaces, sometimes in hermitages, ashrams, and so on, with sages. And so they are really a record of teacher to student and discussions and approaching a very difficult subject from different points of view. So therefore, they are very abstract and require some kind of commentator. For that reason, the principal Upanishads are commentated on by all the three schools of philosophy, which are really popular in what we call Vedanta, namely dualistic approach, qualified non-dualism, absolute non-dualism, Dvaita, Vishishta, Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta, Dvaita, Dvaita. And you can be theoretically a non-dualist, but actually in practice, you all think that you're embodied. So how to get out of that understanding? And is there any harm in feeling you're embodied? So how do we get over the abstract nature of the Upanishads? Conveniently, these three commentators, Madhva, Ramanuja, Adi Shankaracharya, have put their positions forward in commentaries on principal Upanishads, but more significantly, for the average person, the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is the summary of it. It's the longest philosophical poem in the world, and it is a summary of the principles. In fact, after every chapter, it's named, it's an Upanishad, and it's Yoga Shastri. It's a scripture on yoga. Then we have to understand what is yoga. And to remove any confusion with terms, we put in a vernacular term. So union. So anything that is a union is yoga. And ultimately, we're looking for some kind of unified principle. Now, the subject of our talk was really science of religion. So modern science is looking for this yoga, is looking for this union, looking for a unifying principle. Because there seems to be two sets of understandings of this world. One set we can call the classical world, where we walk around and work full of concrete classical objects, tables and chairs and so on. Our familiar world. But really, that's only one approach to it. And because it is the most familiar world to us, we're not familiar with the quantum world, which is the world underneath it. Then we take the one to be real, and the other one is just some kind of theory belonging to some scientist somewhere. So there has been a revolution in modern science in two areas, in the area of biology and in the area of physics. And the area of physics has landed us, when it comes to fundamentals, with question marks. And then when we use an expression, the science of religion, we see this term actually used for the first time. Swami Vivekananda does it. He uses that phrase. He actually says, if we but know how to approach her, that means coiled up universal energy. And he says, Raja Yoga, Raja, royal yoga, because it is the yoga of meditation. And that is common to all the systems. Earlier we had mentioned 4 approaches are there, commensurate with the faculties of the mind. We have a feeling aspect, a thinking aspect, a willing aspect, but we also have a harmonizing aspect called meditation. We did a guided meditation here earlier. So with these faculties of the mind, Raja Yoga, the system of meditation, is common to all of them. It is, if you want to meditate in a devotional way, you can do it. If you want to work in a mindful way, you can do it. If you want to meditate in a non-dualistic way, in a jnana yoga way, you can do it. And so he says, it's the science of religion. This phrase came out for the first time. Science of religion, the rationale of all worship, all prayers, forms, ceremonies, and miracles. Then that leads us to a question. Because today, certainly in the Western world, there seems to be the idea that you are either religious and believe in religion, believe in a God, or you're scientific minded and therefore materialistic, and all the answers are based in materialism and based in physics. The problem of this is the answers are not to be found in materialistic physics. We go back over 100 years, and in 1905, you'll see that in special relativity, the whole idea of matter is gone. Einstein himself says it. And then later on, he puts an appendix to his special relativity, and that comes out with a very famous equation. You all know it. What is it? E equals m. Yeah, forget about the c squared. It has no value. The c squared is there because they were dealing with units, ergs and grams. But the universe is much bigger than ergs and grams. See? So you have to make a unit which elevates that, which reconciles the units. And so c is a constant. Speed of light is a constant. If it's 1, then 1 squared is still only 1. So the whole understanding of it is that this whole matter is equivalent to energy. You put it another way, matter is potential energy. And energy is when it, arranges itself in a different way, condenses, as it were, as matter. And so 1 gram of something has the potential, the nuclear potential, of blowing up a small town. 1 gram of anything has that potential. It just depends. So you can go to the grocery store and order, I don't know, a gram of sweets or something. The grocer selling to you has no idea of its potentiality. So that means that the fundamental thing, from 1905 already, it was worked out, is simply energy. And Swami Vivekananda would have known it because the yogis knew it, and he asks Nikola Tesla in those days, can you find out some kind of equation that will give us evidence or give us a formula that will demonstrate that this is all energy? The yogis knew it. And the science of them knowing it is actually called as Raja Yoga, the science of religion. Now, Nikola Tesla obviously didn't do it, but Einstein put it in his appendix, along with his wife at the time, who was also a good physicist, and together they brought this out. The most famous equation in the world. So what does that mean? Does the world look like energy? No. Do you feel energy? Yes. So there's this division between what we experience and what is actually there underneath it. And we are living in a relative world, a world of change. And so if you're trying to measure the change and put it into equations, then what you're dealing with is you're trying to investigate a thing which really cannot be fully grasped. Because at the most fundamental level, there is something called quantum field theory. Quantum field theory really is something that cannot be repeated. It means that every subatomic particle has a field associated with it. There are also particles, virtual particles they're called, that just appear and disappear. Electrons, positrons, neutralizing each other, finish. bubbling up, as it were. So if you're in Ireland, we can use the example of Guinness. So Guinness, you'll find a big foam on the top and bubbles coming up and coalescing and disappearing again, something like that. This universe is like that, but it doesn't seem to be. And for practical purposes, we can't really use it. If a carpenter says, you approach a carpenter and you say, I want a table, please, and this is the kind of wood I want you to use, and these are the dimensions. And it's no use telling him, but of course, it's all quantum field energy and, doesn't really exist properly and so on. It's all just, no, he's not interested in that. He wants hard wood. He wants to know what type of wood. He wants the dimensions. He wants to know what delivery date are you requiring, and so on. So for practical purposes, we have to operate within the relative world, but we always have to keep in mind in the background that this world is non-deterministic. In fact, Heisenberg brought out this whole idea of this uncertainty principle, but actually on reflection, we could call it really an indeterministic principle. So how do we deal with this, and what is the relationship between science and religion? Well, we have in this whole understanding of energy, also along with it, that we accept all positions to be true. We can't say one position alone is true. This classical world is true, but there's more to it, and there's something underlying it. And the final conclusion that we have is that the thing which is underlying it must be one, must be unchanging. Energy is changing. So energy comes out as potential energy, or kinetic energy, or radiational energy, or electromagnetism. Is something that is shifting and changing with wave-like characteristics. But we will be looking for something that doesn't change, and then the science of religion starts coming out. Now, if you take the materialistic approach, which seems to be a common science approach, then we ask them, from our point of view, what are you studying? If they were to answer the question correctly, they would say, we are studying Maya. All of the science is looking and trying to understand what is Maya. But we know that Maya is neither existent nor is it non-existent. It's inscrutable, but it has three components to it. This was worked out thousands upon thousands of years ago. And the whole name for this whole universe would be Jagat, the thing that changes. This is the world that always changes, shifts and change. And the mistake that we make is to see that it is a continuum which is really present. So I use the example, and people are tired of the examples, they mind, I'm not tired of repeating it. It's like watching a movie, and the movie is run at such a rate that the eye can see it as a series of continuous events. But if you ask the man controlling the cinema reel and say, please, what does it look like from your point of view? It's small pictures that run at a certain speed that looks like a man is running, looks like a car is moving, looks like birds are flying, and so on. Small still pictures run at a certain rate. So things are not what they seem to be. And we have to get underneath it. Now, what we call yoga is the method, regardless of whether it is bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, or karma yoga. Whatever approach you make is designed to get underneath it. For what purpose? For the purpose of freedom. This is the one unique thing that will take religion as a science. It is not looking for a post-mortem place. It's not looking for a paradise. It's not looking for a place where there are beautiful fountains and perfumes. Some religions will have that concept, where things are full of all the things that you would desire here, and you can't get them here, so never mind. They'll give it to you when this body is gone. Nothing like that. And then, of course, we discussed that this world is eternal and runs on causation. And yet, at the fundamental level, there doesn't seem to be a cause. So we have to take what is self-evident. If we make a scientific proposition, we have to put something which is self-evident. Here's the proposition. The proposition is that the fundamental is consciousness and free will. These two things we have to take. They are self-evident. Why? Because we are conscious beings. At least I hope everybody listening is conscious at the moment. So we are conscious beings. That's self-evident. We're all self-aware, and we just did a meditation where we are able to see all the things in front of us and revalue them as instrumental, things that are changing. So consciousness we take for granted. Understanding that if we are conscious at all, you cannot get consciousness from unconsciousness. You cannot get existence from non-existence. It doesn't make any sense. Then secondly, free will. There are big arguments about free will. Some people say free will is an illusion. Some people say it doesn't exist. Other people say it's purely deterministic, and therefore it doesn't exist because everything has a cause and you trace the cause back. But Swami Vivekananda deals with this very beautifully. See, the whole word freedom and will are contradictory terms. So there's, in a sense, there cannot be free will, but in another sense, that's what we experience. Again, it's self-evident. And then if you take free will underlying it, that is in the freedom area, rather than in the classical area, in the area of tables and chairs and bodies and people, then it explains everything. What do I mean by that? There are interpretations of how this quantum field becomes crystallized as people and places and events. And these are not explanations, these are interpretations. These are not proven, these are just somebody's explanation, which may or may not be true. The common explanation for the quantum world appearing as the classical world is called what is called the Copenhagen interpretation. It says that there's a kind of superposition, and things only appear in our classical world once we observe them. In other words, once we measure them. When you measure something, then you have something that conforms to classical physics. So whether you know it or not, there's the famous Young double-slit experiment and so on and so forth. I'm sure many of you will know all about it. If you don't, I'm not going to explain it to you. It's just that if you don't examine or if you don't measure something, even a single electron passing through double slits, you have no prediction as to where it's going to land, and it behaves really like a wave, not like a particle. It appears on a scintillating screen like a particle in a wave format. And you can't say it's a wave and you can't say it's a particle. You can only say its behavior is like this. And so when you ask what is the definition of an electron, it's not a thing. It's not a particle. It's not a wave. It's just indescribable. You must have heard these terms when we talk about Maya. Indescribable. You can't pinpoint it. It's not this, it's not that. It appears, it disappears. The word Maya really coming from a root, meaning something like magic, There are appearance and disappearances. Does that have any scientific explanatory power? Well, the ancients would say These two propositions are there. Consciousness is there. Free will is there. And when we apply the free will, not we, but when the whole, what does that mean? It means that biologically, for example, even 50 trillion cells in the human body, even so, we will see that they are all the whole of the original germ that created it. The original zygote, one cell, that made all the other cells. That means 50 trillion cells have exactly the same information as the original cell. All the information is there. And that means that everything will be a seeming part of the whole. It's the whole, all in every particle. The whole thing is there, a kind of holistic universe. The whole thing is there. And therefore, what is behind everything must be the whole. It must be consciousness itself. And when that consciousness itself decides, as it were, applies its own free will, its own observation, its own measuring capacity, then it appears as a particle or a particular world. And what is useful in this is that the whole of the science that is applied in the Vedanta philosophy is based really on the Sankhya understanding of the whole universe and all of its various cosmic principles, 24 cosmic principles. So we can imagine at the classical end of things, we can imagine 16 items, 16 things. For our understanding of the world, there has to be 5 organs of information that come in, 5 photographs of the universe, 5 organs of reaction. There have to be, therefore, 5 objects. Now you have 15, plus the branch office of the mind. 16 items. All in the classical world. What's the mistake? The mistake is to think that the classical world and the quantum world are different and separate. They are not. And so the Sankhya's understood that, because what manifests as these 16 items are actually the Panchabhuta. These are the tanmatras, these are the subtle elements. And so what has modern science understood for over 100 years in developing the idea of quanta and the idea of quantum field, quantum electrodynamics and all of these kinds of things associated with this, they have come close to what the mother of all fields that we call Akasha. This Akasha, this unmanifest thing, potential energy, if you will, comes out. And this combination is regulated by consciousness applying its will. And this consciousness is applying its will, we call philosophically Hiranyagarbha. That is the golden womb of everything, from which everything comes, the seed of which everything comes. Mythologically, we can call this Brahma, with its energy, Vak, which comes out as the modern Saraswati. And then, religion, what do they call it? They call it God. They call it cosmic mind. They call it cosmic Christ, cosmic Buddha. What devotees of Ramakrishna may say, cosmic Ramakrishna, whatever it is. This is the personal God. But there's a science behind it, which has explanatory power. Because if you put it the other way, you don't know what's happening. You don't know why it is that the quantum world is coming out as a classical world. You're now faced with this dilemma of a unified field theory, trying to reconcile the classical gravity with the quantum of physics. And so 2 types of physics are there, not understanding. It's the one thing. It's only the one thing. And so this makes a science of religion. Now, how do we discover this? Is it a science as well? How do we discover anything with scientific methodology? Well, there has to be some credible authority. There are hundreds of textbooks from physicists with doctorates and professorships and what have you, Nobel Prize winners and so on. So if you want to study what does physics mean, you probably have to go to somebody with some kind of PhD who has some kind of authority, somebody who has peer-reviewed things and what have you, all of that. The difficulty today is there are so many diverse variations of it. Anyway, we have to take a trusting thing, which seems to be the most plausible. And so the process of falsification is there. That anybody who comes up with a proposition, anybody who comes up with some kind of theoretical explanation, it must be open to testability. It must be subject to observational evidence. Now, how does it work in terms of religion? Swami Vivekananda puts it like this: every religion has a book. And what does that mean? Every enduring religion has a book. It means it's a testimony of somebody who says, I have seen, I have felt. Furthermore, here's a kind of operational manual, A, B, C, D, E, and you can use the same process, please, and discover the same thing. And there are common things throughout all of these books. In Christianity, the whole story begins with John the Baptizer saying, repent. What does that mean for everybody? Is it universal or just to a small sect of Jewish people? No, everybody has to take stock. Everybody has to see what is the condition of purity of the mind, because all religious practice will amount to purifying the mind. And if you think that the body is an instrument, if you think the mind is an instrument, and you think that all you have to do is a purification process, you won't spend so much time on curing diseases. You'll only spend all your time on purifying. Make the body pure. The pure blood knows what to do. Make sure that you exercise, make sure, on what basis? On the basis that it's not yours. It's on loan. It's an instrument given to you. For what purpose? Ultimately for freedom. Now we'll go one further in terms of the science of it. If freedom is our goal, freedom from what? Freedom from this illusion that there are these two things separate, quantum and classical. Freedom from attachment, freedom from pain, freedom from fear, freedom from doubt, freedom from psychological maladies, freedom from physical maladies. It's not escapism. It's simply saying there is a system that says by refining these instruments, we can use them as instruments for freedom. And Swami Vivekananda goes even further. Every atom is looking for its own freedom, goes even further. It says the reason why there is a cosmos, the reason why there is a universe is because it is looking for its own freedom. It is designed, as it were, to escape. One of the questions difficult to answer would be, well, if there's this absolute there, beyond the cosmic mind, that manifests in this way and creates a universe which is simply Maya, comprised of hiding the reality, projecting something that is changing, but also having the possibility of revealing it. These are the three fundamental elements of Maya that we call gunas, binding things, sattva, rajas, and tamas. If we promote the sattva element, it is a way of purifying things. That means the diet must be pure. That means the exercise must be pure. That means the attitude must be pure. That means that we have to be free from chewing the cud of resentment, anxiety, all of these things that trap us psychologically and manifest immediately as a physical malfunctioning. So how to make the body healthy in order to make it an instrument to get the freedom? Purifying, cleaning the body, taking it as the Lord's temple, cleaning the body, through proper diet, through good thinking, stress-free thinking, which is the primary difficulty, through proper elimination, through all of these things, nutrition and so on. And maybe even escaping the most modern cause of difficulties, and that is the closeness of populations that create some virus problems. Or putting a house under an electrical line, these are external things. Anyway, cleaning the body with this attitude is the Lord's instrument. Looking for freedom. The atoms are moving to get their freedom. It's an explanation as to why the universe is there. The question is, why is all this there? We can't answer. But all we can say is that it's not really there. It's our mistake. Then, to get out of the mistake, we now access our own freedom. It's not we get freedom, it's already there. Let's just discover that. Then cleaning the mind with prayer, noble thoughts. May noble thoughts come to us from all sides. Cleaning the mind through values of strength and truth and beauty and goodness and harmony. Sattvic elements, by definition, which have no understanding of selfishness, no egoistic entity in it. A generosity of spirit, that kind of attitude. Cultivating that more and more by religious practice. That means all rituals are involved in the science of it. That means japa is involved in the science of it. Love of God is involved in the science of it. Working in such a way that it's stress-free is part of the science of it. These are scientific methodologies. And so the second component in all scientific methodology will be to see all the principles that were taught by competent people, let's say a competent physicist, in the religious sphere be a competent person, saint or incarnation or whatever it is, somebody I trust, provisionally. Provisionally because the real discovery is my own discovery. Provisionally taking it into account, seeing that the methodology will vary from age to age also. So even before, we were discussing the fundamental principles of, let us say, Hinduism or the Vedika system, Vedanta system. 5 principles were there, we enumerated. But you see, the 4th principle, question is, what is the easiest? Love of God. Just lovingly repeating God's name. Taking all the emotions that you have and rechanneling them in a different way, in a higher way. That's all. And it's delightful. Isn't it delightful to sing? Isn't it delightful to have music? Isn't it delightful to chant? Isn't it delightful to have art and culture all around? And the real spiritual aspirant will be right-brained people. Right-brained people, creative people, looking at things through the artistic lens. And that artistic lens will open up a new way of thinking, a joyful way of thinking. That was the question, Swami Vivekananda said, and I'm paraphrasing, if you see a man with his face down by his knees, it's not spirituality. More than likely it's dyspepsia. So you find there's a joy. If our nature is bliss, won't that come through as joy, a sense of humor? Taking things lightly and philosophically, we have an approach toward it. It's called Leela. Seeing this whole world as a divine play. Right. A play of waves. Take it like that. Take the quantum physics seriously. Quantum physics is to do with wave-like behavior. There's appearances and disappearances. And these are the same language we use for the stage. A drama, see. So-and-so made an appearance at this theater, see. Well, presumably when the performance was over, it was a disappearance also. So appearances and disappearances. playing this drama like that. So we have to follow the methodology. And once we follow the methodology, as we do in science, then we can directly see, is it true or is it not, for ourselves. If somebody suggests that water is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, then we have an apparatus and see from a condenser whether it comes out as water. And when it comes out for water, we taste, yes, that's water. We believe it. Okay, you did it for yourself. It's nothing from a textbook. People talk about God. People write reams and reams of passages and books on God, but whoever has seen God? That's the point. So that has to be seen. That has to be experienced directly. We can do it progressively. If we have an adventurous spirit, we can do it in one jump. But otherwise, we would have to do it progressively. And then in terms of the religious theory, let us put it like that, of reincarnation, well, if you take the atoms, and we are told on good authority that they last for easily 1,000 years, and the atoms that comprise your body have probably been used, same atoms for, at some point in time, Buddha's body, Jesus' body, certainly stardust. There's no such thing as individual atoms. All just differently assembled, that's okay. That's it, that's all. So all of these atomic structures are continuously reincarnating in different forms. And that means that we have an existence comprising of this name, this form, and this substance. So once we have made the experiment, see in Ramakrishna's life how it was described. He made his mind the laboratory. And with his mind as a laboratory, he made all these experiments, thereby declaring all religions are true. Yes, I got the experience, whether it was when I did Sufi Islam or Christianity, or when I went, and became and engaged in all these different bhavas, including the bhava of considering the Lord as a lover, and then going into the experience of non-dualism also, under Totapuri, and going into Nirukalpa Samadhi, experiencing for himself. So the words that he speaks is not from a book. It's from his own book of life. Yeah, every page, Romain Rolland says, experiencing every page, the whole of the universe, every page in one life. So we take these great examples and we emulate these examples. And we do it by a system of purification, purifying the mind. Now, the greatest example, of course, there are many examples of how Maya works. And the example that most of you would be familiar with would be the example that in the twilight of the day, somebody comes out and sees a coiled up thing. Twilight of the day, can't see properly, and superimposes an idea, it's a snake. And then what to do? We can run away from it, we can attack it, we can stand mesmerized, but a wise person will investigate. Come on, take a lamp. Either from a teacher or themselves, and shine it. Oh, it's a rope coiled up like this. So how did we mistake it? And furthermore, we didn't mistake it for something else. We mistook it for a similar shape, which means this whole world is a mix of the reality that we call Brahman and the relative, the Nitya on the one side, the Leela on the other side. So that we see it's no accident that a person comes out as they come out. If you want a scientific explanation as to why we have these various aspects of the mind, why we have the instinct to survive, why we have this relational attitude to love, why we have the noble attitude of loving beyond the genetic limitations of a family. Worldwide, we can do it. Or why we are clinging to life desperately. or why we are intelligent, responsive. Not just us, but the whole definition of what is life from a biological point of view is what form of life is responding. And before COVID, people tend to say, the virus is not really a real organic thing. No, it is, as we all found out. It's definitely a real thing, and it's definitely responding, and it definitely knows how to adapt. It's intelligent. There's intelligence in it. So wherever we find this responsiveness, we are finding intelligence. Is it all an accident? Not at all. It is simply that this classical world is mixed up with this quantum world, and its source is manifesting as intelligence, as life. And the words being used in the meditation was life, light, love. Life. There's a reason why we want to live, because our fundamental nature is existence itself. There's a reason why we want to love. Our fundamental nature is bliss. There's a reason why we want to express our intelligence and why we are conscious beings, is because the fundamental nature we have is consciousness itself, Chit. It manifests like that. It's not an accident. And so just as whatever we're seeing in the classical world is a blend of the quantum world, which we might call Tanmatras, whose close discovery as a quantum field is as close as we can get to what we're describing as Akasha. But where is it coming from? It's coming from this consciousness itself, this free will itself. And where is that coming from? It's coming from a disturbance of the equilibrium of this fundamental nature of hiding, revealing, and projecting. This is called Maya, these three gunas. When they don't operate, it's in equilibrium. It is nature itself, not moving. And when it moves, after eons and eons of time in our human evaluation, then we say it's a world. No Big Bang there, just a recycling. And it is this recycling model that many people in modern science, in modern cosmology, seeing a dissatisfaction with the standard cosmological model of a beginning. Now, Krishna tells like this, he says, of created things, you see, Sarganam Adir Antascha, Vajam Chaiva Arjuna. Of created things, I am the beginning, I'm the end, I'm the middle. Why don't we think like that? Everything that we see has these dimensions, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Birth, life, death. Birth, life, death is never ending. But when we see it, it's a divine entity manifesting like this. So of all created things, beings, things, I am beginning. Now we have equivalent texts. I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega. That's Christian language. And then of all sciences, see, it says, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam, of all sciences, I am the science of the self, the divine self. How can we not say that religion is a science? Science of religion is there. And then, and I am constructive reasoning in disputants. If we take it to apply amongst scientists, they're all disputing. I have this theory, I have that theory. And the theories have become so elaborate, science fiction, because guesswork. And yes, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. Things appear, things disappear. Don't take it as a real thing. So Krishna himself is saying this. And we have all this evidence from modern science, which has done a lot of work on it. One interesting thing is that Swami Vivekananda said, when one atom acts upon another, some medium is necessary. Now he's saying this before all of these discoveries. He's just applying some logic. What is that medium? It will be a third atom. If so, then the question still remains unanswered. For how do these two act on the third? A manifest reductio ad absurdum. This contradiction in terms is also found in the hypothesis necessary to all physical science, that a point is that which has neither parts nor magnitude. Interesting. It may well have been said by modern physicists scratching their heads to find out how do we overcome this dilemma, because they recognize the same dilemma. What is this third particle, this third atom that Swami Vivekananda is talking about? We call these virtual particles. It's the virtual particle. It doesn't solve the problem. And then a great famous scientist will say that your method of solving this problem mathematically does not work, because it's just juggling with figures. And so there's that. And so Paul Dirac, he's the inventor of quantum electrodynamics, and he's criticizing what is called renormalization. In other words, doing these calculations from these different, so many different effects coming out. How do we solve it? If it goes to infinity, we just we just adjust the mathematics. It's just a trick, a mathematical trick. So there are many other things like this. Now, there is a man, if you're into computer science, you'll understand who this person is, perhaps. So his name is Federico Fagin. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name. Do you recognize him? Okay. But you do recognize CPU. He's the inventor of it. The inventor of the microprocessor. Yeah. So he's a classical scientist studying science, as every physicist used it. And of course, his thinking is in terms now of quantum bits and so on, quantum computers and so on. But what he's saying really is that you cannot have, and he's talking exactly in this language, you cannot have consciousness coming from unconsciousness. You cannot have something that is complex coming from something that's simple. You must have something already there which comes out as that. You can have a reduction in it, but you cannot have an increase in it from all of this. And so he describes an awakening, as it were, and he was obviously a wealthy man because of his not only a scientist but a businessman as well. And he discovered that he wasn't very happy, and he was in a beautiful part of California and Nevada, his place called Lake Tahoe. And he describes there that he was going up for a drink of water, immensely unhappy with his life. And he had this experience. And he describes this experience as an experience of consciousness. And from there, he had this great awakening that served to explain everything that he was battling with in modern science. The sticking point, the what we call end of a road where nothing else goes on, a kind of close, and a cul-de-sac. And all of this said, well, it's very simple. You start off with these two starting points, self-evident. Consciousness is a fundamental element. Free will is a fundamental element. And that will explain everything else. And so These are some thoughts on the science of religion. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be on all.